If I put a wrench on this pulley, it will move. This pulley over here is moving too, but this one in the front is all crusty on the bottom and stuck to the deck. We're gonna have to take this whole carrier off, I believe, and that's gonna expose everything, and that's gonna be our next step, as much as a pain in the butt as it's gonna be. All right, I was able to get all 5 of the bolts loosened up and maybe to lift off this top carrier. Man, this thing's heavy. This pulley down here is the one that's giving us a hard time. Dude, this thing, what the, oh, I'm like, why is this so loose? It's because the bolt it pivots on is part of the carrier. But the gearbox turns freely. This pulley up here is our main problem right now. And these ones are okay. We have a really nice idler pulley down here. Let's see if we can check that out. Thing's totally disintegrated and missing. So let's take this apart a little more and clean it. So let's check out this idler again. This made me laugh. I mean, this thing is gone, man. It's like gone. This one spins, but it's a little dry feel, and maybe I could get away with just throwing some oil in there for now. The bearings are tight, they just sound dry. But this pulley in the middle, this is going to be our problem child here. I don't even know if I can turn it with this or what. You know, that sucker is locked on there. Ugh. So maybe I'll just pull the pulley off the shaft with the impact gun there, and I may have to take that whole spindle out. I'm not sure, but anyways, you see how rusty this thing is. It's just really crazy. Like this whole top plate had a layer flake off of it, and this, the funny thing is that the left side had the cover on it, and the side that had the cover on it has no paint on it. The right side had no cover on it and all the paint's intact. So I really don't understand why that happened. I have a feeling that maybe moisture was trapped under the cover and that was rotting it out. I'm just not really sure about it. It doesn't make sense, but kind of a weird phenomenon. I just sprayed a whole bunch of PB Blaster around this pulley here. We'll let it sit for a while and see if we can get it off of the shaft, because that sucker is really stuck on there, man. Kind of a drag, but that's what it is. All right, so I put a puller on the pulley to loosen it up and take it off, which it came right off. And in the process of coming off, when I tightened it down, it loosened the blade right up and it spins like perfect. So we're gonna vacuum that junk out of there. And our pulley's a little rusty, so we're gonna take it to the wire wheel and just clean up all that corrosion on there. And I think that we, believe it or not, are ready to put this back together and use it maybe. I took the pulley to the wire wheel on the bench grinder, and I was really trying to get inside the V area. I don't know if you can see, but it's very pitted in there. And I'm afraid that it's just gonna totally eat up the belt and destroy it. So I'm gonna try to take a file and clean up the bad spots a little bit. But I may be going out to my parts deck and seeing if there's a pulley on the parts deck that's not destroyed like this one is. Well, I cleaned up the pulley as good as we're going to get it. I used the wire wheel, and then I used a file inside the groove, and ultimately some 120 grit sandpaper, and I think it's about as good as we're going to get it. So we're going to put it back together and take the belt off the other two pulleys and see if they need to be cleaned up inside also, and we'll go from there. Tackle this busted idler pulley. Remember a couple weeks ago I took idler pulleys off another deck and I said I'd keep this one as a usable spare. So we're going to put that on there for now. All right, so we pretty much have everything back together. I took the drive shaft out and I greased it up. It was totally frozen when we started. It wouldn't move at all. And all the pulleys are freed up now. It's hard. It's always hard to turn these things, just grabbing it like this, but you can see everything's moving. I do need to put the tension on the idler pulleys still and tighten up the belts. I ended up taking a piece of sandpaper and sanding the edge of the belts, because where the belts were stuck in the pulleys, they were covered with the other side of the pits, like it was rust right built onto the belt. So I just took that 120 grit sandpaper, I sanded it off, and it seems to be good. So now we just got to get the 8179 KT over here, and of course I just went to start it and it won't start, so we'll check the spark, I guess. We got the tractor working. It turns out that the key switch was all corroded and the points were corroded, so I put in a different key switch and I cleaned up the points and it started up. So I just drove the tractor over the deck. That deck is so heavy. I put this little piece of plywood over the back and just made a ramp, and I put it in one low and just drove it right over the thing. Now I got to get all the springs and all the stuff that you need to hook up the actual deck to the tractor. So it's going to be a little bit of work here. I've never hooked up a 60, so I printed out the manual and go through the manual and make sure we're doing it exactly the right way. Cool. All right, so I got it all back together. I put a brand new battery in it. The only thing that's not hooked up is the thing to raise the deck. I didn't get that hooked up yet. But I just want to fire it up and drive around a little bit and see what happens. If we turn the PTO on. Well, it works pretty good. I got the deck really low. It needs to be raised up, so it's making tons of clippings, but that's 4 passes, man. I'm just gonna count off with my feet how wide 4 passes is. I'm a little unclear on the overlap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's about 18 feet for 4 passes. So that's pretty darn good. It is a 60-inch deck, so it should be 20 feet. So I'm probably overlapping a little too much, but we'll figure it out. But for now, that's a really good start on getting this thing to work. I never sharpened the blades, nothing. And this grass is really tall. I don't know if you can see how tall it is, but I mean, this is tall. It's at least 6 inches tall. And just for comparison, look at my foot next to it. It's up past the top of my boot. So it's pretty tall grass, hence all the clippings.